Special effects for movies are like makeup for women. You can definitely see the difference with and without it. It's the work behind the scenes, though, which creates the magic on screen. Spider-Man owes his superhuman strength and agility to a radioactive spider bite. The only problem is Tom Holland's an actor, and pole vaulting across the canal requires the assistance of cables. Don't worry though, they can scrub those out when adding in Hydro Man in post-production. Web slinging across the skies of New York can also be made possible because of this, although the look of fear might not always be an act. Tom Cruise is famous for performing all his own stunts, but this one had the cast and crew fearful for the famous actor's life. Riding a motorbike off a ramp on the side of a mountain takes some balls, and one wrong move sends the Mission Impossible star hurtling to it. Prop buses that split in half are expensive, so 3 different angles were all filmed simultaneously, just in case. We all know dinosaurs have been extinct for millions of years, but in Jurassic World Dominion, they had the next best thing.
The tongue moves.
Give my voice.
Oh my god! It's amazing.
The rest of the enormous lizard was filled in with special effects to make for one terrifying encounter.
So now come up like 3 inches. That's great.
But sometimes you don't have the luxury of robotic dinosaurs or even the real actors. In this chase scene, Chris Pratt wasn't even in the country at the time of filming, so they used a stunt double and digitally added his face in much later. What if I told you John Wick didn't take on 6 sword-wielding motorcyclists while riding through the streets of New York? It all happened in a green studio, complete with fans, strobe lights to simulate streaming, and the big guns. The whole sequence was filmed in slow motion, with heavy-duty suspension cables and a motorized jack lifting the 18,000-pound bus upright for the sequence. Rather than throwing Tom Holland out of an actual plane for this scene on Uncharted, they came up with a safer alternative. You'd think Spider-Man would be okay with doing his own aerial stunts, but I guess even superhumans need a day off sometimes. When Ryan Reynolds faced off against a jacked version of himself in Free Guy, it was impossible to find someone who checked all the boxes. Superhuman strength, plus good looks. So they reverted to the next best thing, a vaguely similar-looking bodybuilder and a whole heap of CGI. The result was a surprisingly convincing boss fight featuring Ryan kicking his own ass. How do you create a realistic tsunami without the help of an underwater earthquake? Well, in the movie The Impossible, you start by shrinking a Thai resort down to miniature size, surrounding it with green screens, and then flooding the tiny dive. Too many things to keep track of. Our green hero shows off his superhuman strength time and time again. This might look like a 5-star police chase straight out of GTA 5, but it's actually a behind-the-scenes look of the movie Ambulance. Prop cars sit on tracks, time-sensitive explosions, and all the extras playing cops know exactly when to get out of the way. For the most part, anyway. They only had one shot to pull it off, and the result is crazy. What do you call superheroes without powers? Adults in cosplay. But that's just the harsh reality of Supergirl and The Flash flexing their talents prior to the wonders of special effects. This shot of Sherlock Holmes and his arch-nemesis tumbling in slow motion over a waterfall in a game of shadows marks a fitting end to the franchise. But this scene definitely couldn't have been done on location or even in real time. Oh, and the massive green screen set? That's for nothing more than some good old movie magic. To create this faster-than-sound sequence, filmmakers filmed Evan Peters running on a treadmill and blended in with a rotating shot that had been slowed down. The result was this slow-mo masterpiece. There's no bigger showdown in movie history than the epic Avengers boss fight with Thanos at the end of Endgame. But how do you film a scene where every square inch is filled with superpowers, monsters, aliens, and mythological creatures? Well, for starters, you need a huge green screen set, more motion capture tech than you thought possible, and of course our favorite superhero, green morph suit guys doing all the hard work. When the bullet train carrying Brad Pitt suddenly runs out of track and slams into a concrete barrier, it creates one of the most cinematic derailments of all time. But rather than actually sacrificing a Shinkansen and an entire Japanese suburb, the movie directors spliced together real footage of a harnessed Brad Pitt. Wildlife from Jumanji: The Next Level definitely isn't friendly. But rather than training hordes of murderous monkeys to chase you over rope bridges, the special effects team relied on some cool tricks to bring the deadly world to life. As for the hippo scene, yeah, you just need to shake Jack Black around for a little while. The best thing about filming actors that play dwarves is that you can shrink everything down and you'll never lose perspective. That's why instead of filming the Hobbit's whitewater barrel scene in actual river rapids, they were able to do it in a controlled set. It's not easy fighting invisible orcs with green batons while camera crew pour freezing cold water over your heads, but these guys made it work. This slick action sequence from Hobbs and Shaw really sums up the entire franchise. Fast, furious, and without a fear of heights. The secret behind this high-altitude spectacle comes down to a matter of perspective. Rather than Idris Elba diving out of a 40-story skyscraper window, it's only